tanks and howitzers and other military equipment is rolling into Washington, D.C. as Donald Trump prepares for his dictator parade on June 14th, the day of his birthday. A Kim Jong-un style parade will be taking place. You see here the images. You're not looking at North Korea or Russia. You're looking at the United States of America. And this follows Donald Trump federalizing the National Guard for the first time this has happened since 1965 without a governor's approval. The last time this happened, 1965, President Lyndon B. Johnson sent forces to Alabama to guard civil rights demonstrators. This time, Donald Trump sent the National Guard to go after people in the United States after Donald Trump escalated a situation by having ICE raids attack hardworking Latino communities in California. It should be noted as well that although Donald Trump says, great job by the National Guard stopping everything, and I'll read you what Trump said in a moment, the National Guard had not even arrived at that time. And so shout out to California Governor Gavin Newsom, who understands Donald Trump's fraud and scams, and Newsom called him out right away. So here's what Trump posted, and then let me tell you what Newsom said in response. So at 11:41 p.m., really 2 a.m. in the morning, Donald Trump wrote, great job by the National Guard in Los Angeles. After 2 days of violence, clashes, and unrest, we have an incompetent Governor Newsom and Mayor Bass, who were, as usual, just look at how they handle the fires, and now they're very slow permitting disaster. Federal permitting is complete, unable to handle the task. He's not even speaking in sentences, Donald Trump. These radical left protests by instigators and often paid troublemakers will not be tolerated. Also, from now on, masks will not be allowed to be worn at protests. What do these people have to hide and why? Again, thank you to the National Guard for a job well done! Exclamation point. So Donald Trump, the dictator, saying that if you wear a mask to a protest, you will be violating the law, and the National Guard or potentially the Marines, because Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has said he's activated the Marines to go after American citizens on his order. You will be attacked if you wear a mask. Meanwhile, the ICE officers and the DHS officers and ATF are all wearing masks to shield their identity. Also, Donald Trump, the insurrectionist himself, who attacked police officers, led an insurrection that led to police officers being killed on January 6th, did not activate the National Guard that day, but it was pretty easy for him to activate the National Guard and now the Marines as well, potentially, to attack American citizens. Democratic Senator Chris Murphy puts it aptly. It's important to remember that Trump isn't trying to heal or keep the peace. He's looking to inflame and divide. His movement doesn't believe in democracy or protest, and if they get a chance to end the rule of law, they will take it. None of this is on the level. And as I've been saying, Donald Trump has been targeting not criminals, not gangbangers, not the bad guys. He's been targeting the hard-working Latino community in California and elsewhere. Also in Florida, we're seeing this. We're seeing it in Massachusetts, Texas, throughout the country, every single state. And what the regime is doing is they're sending their ICE agents, ATF agents, and they're also trying to work with local law enforcement who should not be working with them, hiding in the bushes at courtrooms and at courthouses and waiting in the hallways and courtrooms. So as people are going through their lawful process, they're immediately detained, thrown to detention centers, ripped away from their family. Raids on Home Depot, raids at factories and farms, where where Latinos are working and contributing to our economy, most of whom are paying taxes, who are integral to our economy, who are members of this community, peace-loving, hardworking people. That is who the Trump regime is going after, and it's absolutely disgusting. And I am glad that Gavin Newsom called Donald Trump out for it. And as this fascist propaganda parade continues, you have Donald Trump last night at a UFC fight. I mean, I just want you to look at the absurdity of this clown show that is the United States of America. Take a look at Trump right here, putting on UFC belts. It is all cosplay fascism to a T. This is his safe space going into a UFC fight where we, the people, are fed up and sick and tired of this tyrannical authoritarian crap. Let's be very, very clear with our language. We're not in a constitutional crisis. We are past that. The United States of America, June 8th, 2025, is an authoritarian regime led by an idiocracy, the Trump regime. The United States of America is no longer the hegemonic leading power in the world. No way. Trump has weakened the United States to a frail, weak, pathetic thing like Bedminster or like Mar-a-Lago, which may look a little bit pretty from the outside, but when you look inside, it has mold and it's gross and it can't even pass a freaking health inspection like Bedminster couldn't, which got a 32 out of 100 in the local health inspection, literally the worst score you can possibly get. And yes, I do use the language authoritarian regime because this is authoritarian things that happen. The Trump regime reached out to ABC and Disney after one of ABC's reporters, Terry Moran, criticized Donald Trump and Stephen Miller for what they did, and Moran got suspended by ABC and its parent company, Disney. ABC News says senior national correspondent Terry Moran has been suspended pending further evaluation. This since-deleted tweet is the reason for the suspension. So if you're a reporter and you say truthful things that you're critical of the regime, you get fired right now by the American oligarchy. That's what happens. We're a fascist state. We're a fascist country in America. That's what it is. We're fighting here at the MeidasTouch Network from within. That's what's going on. Moran wrote, "The thing about Stephen Miller is not that he is the brains behind Trumpism. Yes, he is one of the people who conceptualizes the impulses of the Trumpist movement and translates them into policy. But that's not what's interesting about Miller. It's not brains, it's bile. Miller is a man who is richly endowed with the capacity for hatred. He is a world-class hater. You can see this just by looking at him because you can see that his hatreds are his spiritual nourishment. He eats his hate. Trump is a world-class hater, but his hatred is only a means to an end, and that end is his own glorification. This is his spiritual nourishment. Posting that now gets you basically suspended or fired from your job in the United States of America. That is absolutely pathetic, and that is why we need more independent media. One of the things that I also like to see as well is what the right wing is like, what their media diet is like what they are looking at. It was notable, for example, that, I made this post, which I thought was a pretty, basic post where I just said, hey, the United States of America should not be attacking these hardworking Latino communities. And all these right-wing influencers started posting at me and saying, how dare they? They're all unlawful. These are horrible people. Get rid of them. And then I'm like, didn't you all say that you were just going to go after the criminals? Now you're revealing your true color. It's important to know what they're saying on the right-wing media. Take a look at this article. Army says Trump's military parade could cause $16 million in damage to Washington streets. By the way, I think it's going to be 10x that. I don't think this military dictator parade is going to be $45 million. Look, you have 7,000 soldiers, 130 vehicles, 50 helicopters, and you're telling me that's only going to cost $50 million or $45 million? No way. They are understating that. I think it's going to be like $500 million. With the cost of 7,000, moving 7,000 soldiers, 50 helicopters, and 130 vehicles, I don't buy the $45 million number. I don't buy the number that it's going to cause only $16 million in damage. I think it's going to cause hundreds of millions of damage, but there's zero right-wing coverage at all on the cost. And the left-wing coverage, the quote-unquote left-wing, are these low-balled numbers as well. The research tool that I use to find all this stuff out, just so you know, is called Ground News. I think it's essential nowadays to see through any double standards in the current media ecosphere. If you go to ground.news/MTN or scan the QR code right there, we're giving our viewers 40% off Ground News' top-tier Vantage plan, which will get you unlimited access to everything I've been talking about. Ground News is subscriber funded, so they don't rely on ads. That could also introduce bias. Subscribing supports our channel and their independent team working to keep the media transparent. One more time, go to ground.news/MTN, and we're giving our viewers that 40% off that Ground News top tier Vantage plan, 40% off. All right, back to my reporting as well. I want to share this with you. This is what Caroline Leavitt said about the suspension of Terry Moran, how the Trump regime reached out right away to ABC and Disney and said, you need to do something about this guy. And ABC said it would. Here, play this clip.
Last night, in a since deleted post, so-called journalist Terry Moran went on a rampage against Stephen Miller. What happened, Caroline?
Well, ABC is going to have to answer for what their, again, so-called journalist put out on Twitter in the wee hours of the night, calling Stephen Miller vile. They said that President Trump is a world-class hater. And this is, again, coming from someone who is supposed to be an unbiased and professional journalist. This is unacceptable and unhinged rhetoric coming from someone who works at a major television network. We have reached out to ABC. They have said they will be taking action, so we will see what they do. But I think this...
I want to show you what MAGA Mike Johnson said moments ago, where MAGA Mike Johnson was asked, are you okay with Marines being on the streets of LA and cities going after citizens? Because Pete Hegseth, the defense secretary, put out a statement saying the following: the Department of Defense is mobilizing the National Guard immediately if violence continues. Active duty Marines at Camp Pendleton will also be mobilized. They are on high alert. Here's what MAGA Mike Johnson said. Play this clip.
Secretary Hegseth said that active duty Marines there at Camp Pendleton, there by San Diego, are on high alert and could be mobilized. Could we really see active duty Marines on the streets of Los Angeles?
You know, one of our core principles is maintaining peace through strength. We do that on foreign affairs and domestic affairs as well. I don't think that's heavy-handed. I think that's an important signal.
You don't think sending Marines into the streets of an American city is heavy-handed?
We have to be prepared to do what is necessary, and I think the notice that might happen might have the deterrent effect.
Okay. Now, our editor-in-chief, Ron Filipkowski, responds, one of our core principles, and he's a veteran, he goes, one of our core principles is to not deploy the Marines domestically to carry out law enforcement functions. They aren't trained for that and aren't there for that since the founding of the Republic. But this toady will never go against Trump on anything. Just moving briefly over to the issue of the attacks on the business community and uncertainty in trade. Here you have on Face the Nation, you have Kevin Hassett, Donald Trump's chief National Economic Council advisor, and you have the host basically saying, so, you know, what's going on with these tariffs? I mean, aren't we trying to negotiate down the tariffs? And Hassett's like, nah, the tariffs are always going to be here. Play this clip.
You are saying tariffs are staying put. That this is a constant source
reciprocal. You've seen deals.
Right,
You've seen deals. Yes, and exactly where they are, we're working it out, and we're opening up markets.
Yeah, but
so that
deals. This is where I'm stuck, because deals is about negotiating down the tariffs. So that's a diminishing source of revenue over time. But are you saying that there will be blanket tariffs?
Last year,
what percent?
before we got here, we were raising $80 billion a year in tariffs. Right now, the CBO projects that we're going to get $2.8 trillion over the next 10 years. Exactly where the number ends up is going to depend on how much foreign countries open up their markets to our products and how well they treat our farmers.
So you don't know how much revenue you're
but revenue was $80 billion last year. Tariff revenue is not going away. That's what I'm saying.
But we don't know what the tariffs are going to be.
We're negotiating them on a country-by-country basis. We've got a whole bunch of trade deals. We've got a trade deal with the UK that's already, you can see what the trade deal with the UK is now.
Right, so it's a fluctuating number. It's not a constant.
And also this Trump regime lackey is asked, so can you give the business community some certainty? And he goes, well, the one thing you can be certain about is there's going to be tariffs. Here, play this clip.
Federal Reserve, who said the rules are really unclear and business leaders need certainty. When will they get that certainty from the administration?
Right. Well, you can be certain that there's going to be some tariffs, and the stuff that folks have been saying is going to happen to tariffs is inconsistent with what you and I have talked about before, Margaret. So what's going on, right, is that we've had a trade deficit with China forever and ever because they just want to sell stuff here so that they can create jobs in China and help, control their government. So if people are unemployed, then it's harder for a dictatorship to run. And so the point is just that if we put a tariff on them, then they're going to bear the tariff.
MAGA Mike Johnson is asked about why does this budget bill have, benefits for like tanning beds? Why are you screwing over the American people? Like y'all are very upset about what's happening with tanning beds. And he's like, yeah, we are. And then tries to blame it on Biden. And then the host is like, it was not Biden. It goes back to 2010. And they're like, yeah, but Biden enhanced it. MAGA Mike's just a liar about everything. Play this clip.
Right to.
What about tanning beds? It eliminates a 10% tax on tanning beds. I mean, how did that become a priority for
Well, I think that was an unfair thing that the Biden administration put on an industry because they decided.
It was actually, it goes back to 2010. It's been around for 15 years.
Yes, but the Biden administration enhanced it, and there'll be modifications probably to that in the final package as well. But we'll see how it comes out.
Okay.
Then he's asked about the provision on gun silencers. Here, play this clip.
One, there is a provision that eliminates a tax on gun silencers. Now, this is a tax that has been on the books for about 100 years. Why are you suddenly cutting a tax on silencers?
Well, there's a lot of thought and deliberation that went into that as well. The Second Amendment is a critical freedom in the Constitution, and there's no real rationale for adding taxes on these pieces of equipment. And we had the votes to do it. I think it was a long time overdue. I think we have to protect the fundamental freedoms of the American people, and there's no rationale. The government should not be making money on something that you have a fundamental, inalienable right to.
What about?
At the end of the day, we just want health care for people. Just want people to have education. We just want people to be able to afford homes. We just want people to be able to get paid with dignity for the work that they're doing. People shouldn't face the psychological torture of living paycheck to paycheck and having to decide, I don't know if I'm going to be able to eat today, or can I pay for my kids' food, or can I pay for rent? We shouldn't have to deal with those types of decisions in the United States of America. But we're living in a fascist, authoritarian state right now in the United States, led by these oligarchs who hate the middle class. They hate regular people. They hate working class. They hate Americans. These oligarchs want to rip and steal, and they are thirsty for violence against the American people. There's no other way to put it. Like, I'm showing you what it is. Call it out what it is. And I think this also shows the importance of independent media right now more than ever. We're just saying it. We're saying the truth. We're saying what our observations are. You can't look at what's taken place as you activate the National Guard and potentially the Marines against the people and do all the evidence I just showed you and say, that's not authoritarianism. Hell yeah, that's authoritarianism. And we, the people, shouldn't take it. We shouldn't tolerate it. We shouldn't normalize it. We're going to keep on fighting for you at the MeidasTouch Network. Thanks for watching. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 5 million subscribers.
New Meidas merch drop. Check out the latest pro-democracy sticker packs, t-shirts, hats, sweatshirts, and more. All at store.meidastouch.com.